Auburn Baseball dominates the Tennessee Vols.
You are Locked On Auburn, your daily podcast on the Auburn Tigers. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Yes, welcome on into Locked On Auburn, your daily Auburn Tigers podcast. It's a baseball bonus show. Lindsay, Crosby hanging out with you. You can find all of his stuff over at thebarnauburn.com as far as Auburn baseball coverage is concerned. And Auburn baseball wins 2 of 3 on the road in Knoxville. That's what you and I both picked and projected on our Friday show that we dropped. But this team, they took care of business. Ike Irish was phenomenal. You saw several different pitchers step up. I mean, who is the hero of the weekend if you had to sum it down to one guy?
Honestly, Tony Vitello, head coach of Tennessee.
Yeah.
Whether it was being dumb and starting that game on Friday night and burning his starter.
That was crazy. That was one of the more crazy things I've seen.
Yeah, getting fired up on game 3 and getting thrown out and it not working for his team. I mean, no, it's tough. This really was kind of a team win. Like everybody, like there wasn't one guy who just took over the whole weekend. I would say this is the rare one where I'm going to say it's a team win because the comments that Ike Irish made after game 3. So if you heard some of this, long story short, Ike talked about, this is to the Auburn radio network. Right. Ike talked about some of the extracurricular antics that Tennessee did. Liam Doyle, the starter for Tennessee that I'm talking about from Friday night that I warned everybody about last week. He struck out Chris Rembert to start the game and then decided to, talk some trash. Ike Irish took him for a home run immediately.
Correct.
2 pitches later.
That happened.
And then on Sunday, prior to the restart, Ike mentioned that they didn't play the national anthem, which I believe is because it wasn't the start of a new game. They were resuming play from the day before.
Right.
And that got him a little fired up. But this was the rare game where just everybody kind of chipped in. The pitching, I think, was the big thing. Game 3, Christian Shiderton, the freshman, 3 shutout innings. Cade Fisher comes in relief for the first time in his career.
Yeah.
Or first time in his Auburn career. 4 innings, 1 run on 2 hits. The pitching really stepped up in game 3. And honestly, you were pretty close to a sweep.
When Cade Fisher hit him with the go to sleep thing, that was awesome.
Wild.
Okay.
A dude that got pulled out of the starting rotation because of underperformance turns around and just takes him down. Like it's this, you could really see this weekend that Auburn doesn't they're the type of team that doesn't like all of the extracurricular BS from Tennessee. Auburn,
they want to play baseball.
They're to play baseball. They're there to just they don't need you to come talk trash in their face.
Which is so Butch Thompson. It's so Butch Thompson. And I love every bit of it.
Yeah, you can see the personalities of the 2 teams.
Yeah, reflected by their coaches.
I'm sorry, of the 2 coaches in the way the teams acted, right?
Yeah.
Liam Doyle talking trash early, it backfired on him immediately. He comes back in relief to end game 2 because it was rain delayed to Sunday.
Yeah.
And he gets they win the game, but he gets thrown out for being a little too aggressive with a tag to end the game there. And then you can see the way Auburn plays the game. They just shut up and they do their job versus Tennessee trying to be all big and boisterous and, talking loudly. And you see where that got them, right? They went 1-2 this weekend.
Yeah. Yeah. Auburn, that was one of the big concerns, I guess. One of the big concerns with this team is, okay, they've been awesome at the newly revamped Plainsman Park, but when they've played elite teams on the road, they've gotten swept in Athens, in Austin. And that was something that we talked about when we dropped the show on Friday, and you guys were talking about it all last week at the Auburn Baseball show. It's, okay, what can Auburn do against an elite team on the road? And you have now maybe got that off your back, and you're saying, yeah, we can beat anybody anywhere.
I'm going to go a little bit farther on the hostile environment thing too. And I'm going to say, I'm sure Tennessee fans are going to love to hear this when they come watch the show, but I'm going to say that the Tony Vitello kind of attitude, right? We're the best team on the planet. You guys are not as good as us, whatever.
Sure.
Kind of hear how that rubbed off on the fans. Because that ballpark was not very loud over the course of the weekend.
Yeah.
The weather has a little bit. Yeah,
it's kind of the weather. You didn't know when the game was actually going to be played or when there'd be a weather delay. So I didn't know how much of it was fan base culture and how much of it was the weather.
Yeah, it was very much even on Sunday when the weather was nice and you knew they were playing, the only time I really heard the Tennessee crowd get loud was when Tony got thrown out in Game 3.
Sure.
Like that was really it.
Yeah.
This is all, I was not in Tennessee this weekend, obviously. This is all from a distance, just having seen how Tennessee fans react, having watched this series when you knew they were going to play and the weather was good. It really just felt like Tennessee expected to win and the fans just expected to win. And they weren't really in it. I think that's the difference between when you went to Georgia and you went to Austin and when you went to Knoxville.
Yeah, I want to talk about what this game means for Auburn and the SEC and a national seed and all that. But just real quick, the aspect of the weather and Tennessee pushing to try to get the game in on Friday when it's like visibly like a monsoon that's like about to happen. And they burn their starter, their first round draft pick, as you labeled him last week. And Auburn didn't throw a pitch. And it's just like, I can't imagine how frustrating that would be to a Tennessee baseball fan where they've kind of been struggling over the last few weeks and they needed a series win against a ranked team. And then you just waste your best player. I texted Eric Kane, host of Locked On Vols, which he covers Tennessee baseball better than anybody. Yeah. And I'm like, what's the behind the scenes story? Like, what happened? Like, what were the discussions actually happening about this? And he's like, Tony just hates doubleheaders. Okay. Like, you can hate it all you want. Like, that's part of what this game is. Like, you have
sometimes you just have to play it. Yeah.
Yeah. I was blown away by how Tennessee handled all of that.
Yeah, and a lot of Tennessee fans are like blaming the officials, the umpires, and all of that. The way this works in college baseball, in the SEC, the home team are the ones that drive this decision to postpone the game, to play it, to delay it, to scratch it for a doubleheader. Tennessee did that to themselves. They would have rather burned their starter, getting a 30-pitch first inning out of him, than to play a doubleheader on Saturday. And again, I keep talking about it. That goes back to Tony Vitello. Yes, they won a national championship last year, but he did just about everything wrong this weekend.
Yeah, even the inning you got out of him wasn't good.
No. And that was self-imposed because Liam Doyle sat there and started talking trash after one at bat. And got in Auburn guys' face, and they responded to it. Like,
imagine talking smack and disrespecting Ike Irish. Imagine doing that. I can't. I personally cannot imagine doing that.
I love that Ike Irish brought a potato famine to Tennessee.
Sure.
It's the first time a potato famine's worked out in our favor in a while.
I think so. Yeah. The last one did not. That's for sure. Is Auburn a national seed after this weekend? Let's discuss. That's next right here on Locked On Auburn. Today's show brought to you by Supply House. You can get all the supplies you need for the site made for skilled trades, whether you're in plumbing, HVAC, or electrical. Supply House has everything you need. Lindsay, can you imagine being a tradesman in this space and not getting your supplies from Supply House?
I would never. Listen, no. HVAC, electrical, plumbing, whatever it is, I always go to Supply House.
Award-winning customer service. You're talking to a human if you ever need anything, not some robot, some AI chatbot. You go straight to it. And then also their Their Trademaster program, it's free. It gives you a ton of exclusive perks, dedicated phone line, free shipping, discounts. So you can join the Trademaster program today at supplyhouse.com/TM and start ordering plumbing, HVAC, and electrical supplies, all with just a few clicks. Plus, use promo code SH5 for 5% off your first order. That is at supplyhouse.com. Thank you so much. Yes.
It's called Supply House. It's really a supply home.
Yes, 100% agree.
Okay, sorry.
100% agree. Has Auburn done enough to be a national seed? Their RPI is still 4th. Tennessee, just for folks keeping track at home, dropped from 11 to 14 after this weekend.
You get penalized for home losses in RPI. It doesn't matter who you play.
Yikes. Still Georgia, Texas, and Vandy in the top 3 ahead of Auburn when it comes to RPI. It's so interesting, though, because you look at it, which it seems like the committee cares more about RPI than anything else. But Auburn is like tied for 7th in the SEC standings, which just shows how great this conference is at baseball each and every year. Has Auburn done enough to be a national seed, or is it still like, hey, we need to see what they do against South Carolina and Ole Miss?
If you handle business the next 2 weeks, then yes. Right.
So what is handle business? 4 and 2 in those 6 conference games?
I think 4 and 2. You're 13 and 11 in the conference right now. If you go 4 and 2, you go to 17 and 13. Right now, there are 2 teams with 17 or more conference wins in Texas and Arkansas. But if you have 17 conference wins and a top 4 or 5 RPI, depending on what South Carolina does, if you have a top 5 RPI, and 17 conference wins, I'd like to think you are going to get into a top 8 national seed.
Yeah.
A lot of the projections at the time of recording aren't out yet as far as what national media thinks, but a lot of the national media also picked Tennessee to not only win the series, some of them picked a sweep by Tennessee. So maybe we shouldn't listen to them anyway. Just listen to the Auburn Baseball show. We all had, and you and I, we all had Auburn winning 2-1.
Which that was correct. Auburn was not swept by Tennessee this weekend.
Auburn won the series. Yeah.
That's right.
Yeah.
Is there any pressure just from, I mean, like you said, you're going to get dinged if you lose at home. South Carolina, they're 5-19 in the league. Is there any pressure on, like, if you were to drop that series against South Carolina, like how much damage could that do?
You can drop a game. You can't drop the series. If you drop the series, especially given that it's at home and that South Carolina is not as highly regarded, they're the easiest of the 2 teams left on your schedule. If you drop the series, you are not going to be a national host. You can still host a regional, even if you drop that series. You've got to probably at least win, if not sweep Ole Miss, to do that.
Yeah.
But if you drop the South Carolina series, you're not going to be a national seed. Again, you need to go 4 and 2, or you have to go 4 and 2. You really should probably go 5 and 1 if you want to guarantee a national seed.
So you think if they go, let's say they go
3 and 3.
Let's say they go 3 and 3 and they go 2 and 1 against South Carolina, and then they lose the series on the road against Ole Miss. You don't think that's enough to get them a national seed?
It would come down to,
and just for folks, like, just to be clear, a national seed for folks who are like, what is that? It's a top 16 seed, which means
it's a top 8 seed.
Thank you. Which means you get to host a super regional. Thank you. Yeah.
Should you advance, you get a super regional, top 8. Yeah.
Right.
If you lose the Ole Miss series, it is on the road. That is a more highly regarded team than South Carolina. So you have 2 things going for you there. It doesn't kill you.
Yeah.
If you do that, although it is still very tough to get a national seed if you lose either of these series. South Carolina is 62 in RPI, for instance, while Ole Miss is
they're 17.
They're 17. So you have
and you're on the road.
And you're on the road. So you have a little more grace in 2 separate ways there.
Right.
But really, if you want to be a national seed, you got to handle your business. You need to win 2. And honestly, this team, going back to last year, as they like to keep reminding us, has won 8 of their last 10 series. The only losses you have were on the road to UGA in Texas. So if they follow this pattern, they should win both of these series. They may drop a game in each weekend, but they should win both these series. And then you get a top 8 seed, and you don't necessarily have to count on making a run in the SEC tournament to lock that down.
Do you think with going to Ole Miss to wrap up the season, do you think Ole Miss might be playing for something a little extra as well? Could they be on that line to like host a regional in Oxford? I mean, that could be a big series for them.
It could. I still think they're probably a 2 seed.
Yeah.
I mean, they would have to. I haven't looked at who they're playing.
Who do they play this weekend? Let's see.
I got to look at that real quick. But they have to, they just lost to Oklahoma, if I remember right.
Yeah.
And then I'm trying to pull up who they play this week.
Mississippi State.
Oh gosh.
In Starkville.
And State needs this too if they want to make the postseason. They've already fired their coach. That's going to be tough for Ole Miss, honestly, especially if they lose that series in Starkville. They're going to be pushing hard to win a series to make the SEC or to make the postseason and just to solidify their spot as something better than a 3 or 4 seed. Honestly, a 2 seed or a 3 seed doesn't really matter.
Yeah, for sure.
The big difference is 1 versus 2. Because if you're a 1 seed, you start off with a 4. If you're 2 or 3, you play the other middle seed.
That's a good point.
The big deal is one or not. That's the big deal.
Right.
I think they'll be in either way. It would be tough for them to, I think, get to a hosting spot at this point. 2 games over 500 in the conference, but their RPI is good enough where if they beat Mississippi State this weekend, Auburn's playing for a national seed. Ole Miss is playing for a number 1 seed and hosting a regional. So we'll see what happens.
Yeah. Yep. So if you want more Auburn baseball coverage, the best Auburn baseball show is the Barn Baseball Show. You, Brad Law, Sonny D.
Grand Slam merchant Sonny DeShera.
Yes.
Won over the weekend for Rocket City. Yeah.
So,
and again, that's where all 3 of us picked Auburn 2-1, just like you and I did.
That's correct. Because
we know
once again, Auburn did not get swept by Tennessee, like the experts said.
They actually won the series 2-1. Tennessee lost twice because you can't spell Tony Vitello without 2 L's.
Wow. How about that? How can people check out everything you've got going on, dude?
I'm on social media at Crosby Baseball. Again, the Barn Baseball Show, thebarnauburn.com,
Yes.
all of the baseball nuggets. If you're a Braves fan, bravestoday.com, the Braves Today podcast, and the Braves postcast with Locked On Sports Atlanta.
Yes.
Lots of baseball over here.
Yep. Give Lindsay some love. He deserves it. Please like the video. Please subscribe, and we'll see you next time. This has been Locked On Auburn.